It's very rare that I sit here and think, can this be the best camera ever made? Can it do literally everything you would need as a photographer and as a videographer? Let's find out. I'm Andrew from Wilkinson Cameras, and this is the Sony Alpha 1. Welcome everyone to our first hands-on look at the brilliant Sony Alpha 1. If you are new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe and press the bell icon so you're notified of all our new videos. There's no vagueness or mystery about the Sony Alpha 1. It is quite possibly the most versatile camera that you can buy on the market right now. It's equally at home on a muddy sports field, in dense jungle, or on the set of a large budget movie. The Alpha 1 kind of reminds me of those cars that you used to draw as a kid with jet engines and machine guns on the top. It features a 50.1 megapixel full frame stacked CMOS sensor, providing class-leading dynamic range and quality. And if 50 megapixels isn't enough for you, then we also see a 199 megapixel pixel shift mode, which uses 16 different images combined to create one incredibly detailed picture. Of course, that isn't going to be massively useful for everyday usage, but it does have some really good specific usages, such as lab photographers, copy photographers, property photographers, anything that you can shoot that has absolutely no movement at all. You get 199 megapixels of detail to work with. Autofocus, we see 759 phase detection points and 425 contrast detection points. This covers 92% of the frame. Sony have also said that there has been updates to their tracking autofocus, which if you've used a Sony before, you already know is outstanding. And we also see a bird eye AF mode, which, as someone that enjoys shooting wildlife myself, really negates a lot of the problems that you do get with bird photography, one of them being capturing focus, especially on smaller and faster birds. In terms of burst rates, we see 30 frames per second of burst, leaving most cameras that are full frame looking pedestrian in comparison. And with the new Bionz XR processor, we also see minimal, and I seriously mean minimal, distortions when using the electronic shutter, which makes this perfect for any fast-paced environment. 5-axis steady shot stabilization gives us 5.5 stops of image stabilization, meaning that combined with the insane burst rate that you get for the A1, this is perfect for handheld shooting of things like sports, motorsports, action, and of course, like I was saying earlier, wildlife photography. It's really nice to see in-body image stabilization of such a high level, especially when we're getting 50 megapixels of quality. At the time of this recording, the Sony Alpha 1 features the best EVF ever made, 9.44 million dots, 240 frames per second refresh rate with absolutely zero blackout, meaning that shooting with this is more comparable to shooting with a DSLR through the eyepiece, except we see the information on the screen, we see where the focus points are, where they're tracking, we see histograms, zebras. You get all of the detail that you need that you would normally get on the touchscreen in the EVF with zero blackout and almost real life quality. This camera is not just for photographers. We see a host of features that you would expect from top-end cinema cameras. We have 8K recording, we have 60 FPS 4K in 422, and we also have 120 FPS in 1080p with 422 capabilities as well. It's quite rare to see slow motion with such detail and the ability to color grade that you get with the Sony Alpha 1. Footage can be saved to either of the Sony Alpha 1's card slots, both featuring UHS 2 compatibility, CF Express Type A or SD cards. And if you use the external HDMI port, you can capture up to 16-bit RAW, making this one of the most compatible hybrid shooting cameras on the market. But I think that's enough about spec, because I could literally sit here and talk for hours about the features and the spec of this camera. Let's have a look at its practical usage. Size-wise, it sits somewhere between the A7 and the A9 range. It's really nice in the hand with a deep grip as well. The hero of the design is, as I said earlier, that EVF. The best viewing experience does come from the electronic viewfinder, though we do see a very nice LCD screen on the back. It's not fully articulating, but with the rest of the spec of this camera, we can forgive one tiny shortcoming, especially when the EVF is that good. All the buttons on the Alpha 1 come with a really nice satisfying click and can be used with gloves on, given their deepness of the press and the size of the button. We see quite a few custom buttons on here as well, including custom dials and an exposure compensation dial, which really does let yourself build the camera that you want. All of the buttons can be customized with any of the functions, from AF tracking to white balance, focus mode, shooting modes, bracketing, anything that you want, you can have in the palm of your hand without having to access the menus. And talking about menus, we do have Sony's new menu system, which is really nice and intuitive to use. It's a really big upgrade on some of the earlier cameras, something that I'm really happy has moved over to the Sony Alpha 1. Connectivity wise, you are not going to run out of options with the Alpha 1. We see dual band Wi-Fi, which allows top end blistering transfer speeds, Bluetooth 5.0, full size HDMI, USB-C, a multi-USB port. We see Ethernet as well if you're using it in high-end studio applications. The possibilities with connectivity of this camera are endless. So I think that's enough talking about the Alpha 1. Let's get outside, let's get shooting, let's see what the burst can do, let's see what the quality of that 50 megapixel sensor can do for landscapes, and I'll be back here shortly. So we've arrived at Gawthorpe Hall in Padiham, just next to Burnley, and we're going to put the Alpha 1 through its paces with some nature, some wildlife and some landscape photography. We've got the hall itself, which is beautiful, and it's a beautiful place to take photos. We've got loads of parkland where we're going to get lots of nature shots and maybe even some wildlife, depending on if we get to see any birds, squirrels, stuff like that. So that's enough talking. Let's get straight to it and see how the Sony Alpha 1 gets on. So we've made it to the AJ Bell Arena. We're about to watch Sale Sharks versus Harlequins. I've got the Sony Alpha 1 ready with the 100 to 400mm G Master, and we're going to see what we can get. It's going to be fast-paced action. There's going to be a lot of the 30 FPS burst mode being used, so I'm really excited to see how that works, of course, with the real-time tracking that is new and improved. So I better crack on because warm-ups are starting. So impressions already are very, very, very good. At the moment I'm shooting freehand without the monopod just because we're so low down, and it is so stable in the hands, so well balanced. The ergonomics are truly fantastic. The stabilization as well, I've got it set to mode 2 on the lens, which is more for panning, because obviously a lot of the action is side to side, being rugby. It's handling it very, very, very well. Obviously we are using higher shutter speeds, but you know,
I can say confidently that this is proper top-end stabilisation. Focus is keeping up. I mean, these guys are top athletes, running full pace. So yeah, really, really impressed. I mean, this is crazy. This is not missing a beat. Let's get Faf to Clerk here. So that's a scrum half, number 9 with the blonde luscious locks. We're going to get him out the back of this ruck here. Hopefully pass in. I'm just tracking him and tracking him and tracking him. Right, first half impressions. Apologies for the sun behind me. Unbelievable, and I genuinely mean that. We're talking this 30 FPS burst rate is ridiculous. The autofocus tracking has not missed, and when I say has not missed, I mean we're talking the scrum half throwing it all the way out to the wings, and it has not missed a single step. So yeah, overall I'm incredibly impressed with the Alpha 1. Quite possibly the best camera I've ever used. I say quite possibly it is. It is the best camera I've ever used. At the time of this recording, it is the best camera I've ever used. Shout out to Three-Legged Thing as well. Winston 2.0 is a very good monopod. Combined it with Ellie, the L bracket. Really versatile, really light. Actually, quite a lot of the photographers here are using Three-Legged Thing, which I was quite surprised because I thought they were quite a niche product, but trusted by these professionals. So yeah. Definitely trusting myself. So we're going to carry on. Half-time is just coming to a close in a few minutes, and Sale will be attacking this way. So hopefully get a few more close-up shots. That's the only thing we've been lacking right now, is just an opportunity to get those close-up shots. Mainly because Sale Sharks have been absolutely destroying Harlequins. So we've only got the maximum reach is 400. Obviously we have got the 50 megapixels to crop in, so we'll see how that works in post. But yeah, overall, it doesn't really get much better than this.
Now we're back in the comfort of the studio. Let's have a look at some of the video examples that I managed to shoot with the Sony Alpha 1. A lot of this has been shot in 8K, and I know people are still skeptical of 8K because an 8K TV sets you back thousands of pounds. But the reason why we use 8K is you can do a lot of panning, cropping, and zooming. You can even simulate a 2-camera setup when you're doing something like interviews in a studio or in a professional workflow. So 8K is actually really versatile, and it looks beautiful when you downscale it to 4K as well. The file size is manageable, and you don't need the highest end computer to use it because of Sony's codecs. So without further ado, let's have a look at the video examples that I shot on the Sony Alpha 1. So that brings me to the end of my hands-on experience with the Sony Alpha 1. And should you buy the Alpha 1? Well, it does come at a price. I'm not going to hide that, but you're not going to win a Formula 1 race with a 10-year-old transit van unless your name is Sabine Schmitz. At the time of this recording, the Sony Alpha 1 is the best camera available on the market. So if you're a professional photographer, a press photographer, someone that uses your camera as your daily income source, you've pretty much already made up your mind, especially seeing the dual band Wi-Fi and the 1000 base T Ethernet support. But that doesn't just mean that this camera is for professional photographers. If you're an enthusiast, you see every feature you would ever need, from brilliant weather resistance, the best AF tracking support on the market, incredible ISO response, you name it, this camera has it. If you're a videographer, you get all of the quality that you would ever need, 120 FPS 4K, 8K recording, headphone and microphone jacks, you name it, the list is endless. And the Alpha 1 is right at home in a studio environment with its 1/400th of a second flash support and its professional workflow capabilities. This is one of the most capable, if not the most capable, professional grade cameras on the market. If you'd like to know more about the Sony Alpha 1 or anything in our Sony Alpha range, head in store, visit us online, or give us a call and we're more than happy to help.